Oh, hello, hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to Seek Truth, Speak Truth. Today, I am starting a new series, and it is something very, very different to my usual type of content. This really would be where I'd love to take the channel in a direction completely away from Flat Earth. I'm an ex-flat earther, so I basically have used this channel to spread the knowledge that I was duped. The earth isn't flat. I think I'm doing my piece, but I cannot spend my life talking about my previous beliefs. I'm an ex-flat earther. The earth's not flat. I have other interests, and I'm sure you guys do too. Most of my subscribers are highly intelligent people, and you're interested in things, I know you are. So I want to show you what interests me, what interests STST. So if you want to come along on the journey, step away from the debate and let's step back in time and have a look at some history and things that changed the world. I'm not a historian, but I love learning about it, just as I'm not a scientist, but I love learning about it. So come along for the ride, guys. This is STST when he isn't talking about flat earth. Hello, welcome to Seek Truth, Speak Truth. I'm doing something a little bit different today. This here is Akenham Church. This was a place that I used to come during my childhood a lot, and basically I'm going to do a new series where I'll go around my county of Suffolk showing you places of interest, places of history, and just places where I grew up. Let's do it. I used to come here so much as a boy to play, and at the time, kids running about, having fun, and I never ever realised the actual history that exists at this one little church. This solitary grave was the centre of huge controversy in 1878. Joseph Ramsay was buried here unbaptised. It was national news for a year and ended with the laws in England being changed to allow unbaptised children to be buried within the church grounds. Akenham Church is only 4 miles from Ipswich town centre. It stands as a lonely sentinel on raised ground almost a mile from the nearest thoroughfare. At the end of a muddy track where fields stretch into the countryside, it looks as if life passes it by. The church is, for example, where Sir Edward Walgrave was laid to rest, chief advisor to Queen Mary I. It was also involved in the Burial Reformation Act after a 2-year-old child, Joseph Ramsay, was apparently denied a Christian burial by the Reverend Drury, a clergyman known for preaching hellfire and damnation from the pulpit. Joseph's gravestone can still be seen in the north of the churchyard, a short life that led to a change in the law when a legal dispute broke out over whether or not an unbaptised child of a nonconformist family could be buried with a service in a Church of England graveyard. The scandal led to a change in the burial law of England in 1880, and a greater level of acceptance in burial practices and guaranteed access to consecrated ground with or without the services of any Christian church or denomination. Akenham, otherwise known as St Mary's, is a Grade 2 listed building. Parts date back to the medieval period from the 13th century. The tower was built in the next century, and more additions and alterations followed in the 15th century. Going back to my childhood and the time that I spent here, I will always remember a story from my dad. Him and some older members of my family had gone up there. There's local legends. Supposedly, if you run round the church 13 times anti-clockwise, you will release the devil. And funnily enough, I actually laid next to the very grave to compare how tall people are compared to, say, 300 or 400 years ago, and I didn't realise I was actually laying next to the devil's grave. This just felt so surreal. I've spoken previously in videos of mine and I actually have an inherent fear of death, and actually this helped me a little bit today. It kind of literally grounded me. Now I know, of course, it is highly unlikely that the devil does reside within that cracked tomb. Word quickly spread in the early 1900s, as it would back then, that the devil had indeed been awoken with the burial of the unbaptized child. I think this may be where Queen Mary I's advisor was buried, but I cannot be certain. Is there anybody that can read this? I would love if somebody could come forwards and tell me what this says. I have no idea. Looks very royal to me. Found these old screws for the actual door. So what someone has done is they've come down here, taken these out as they go, hoping that they can get in through that panel. Luckily they didn't. In 1940, a German bomber returning from a foray over a Midland city dumped the rest of its load here before the hazardous crossing of the North Sea. A mine actually hit Akenham Church directly, wrecking the building. It remained derelict until the 1960s, where the energy and enthusiasm of the local people and the resources of the Friends of Friendless Churches rescued the building and restored it to use. Although no longer an active church, I'm sure for many, many generations to come, this will be a place of wonder and amazement for young and old. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. I know I certainly had an incredible time making it. So if you did get to the end there, thank you so much. It really does mean the world. Thank you again. This is where I want to take the channel. I may lose a few subscribers over this. I may gain a few. Honestly, don't mind. I want to put out content that I like, and hopefully you like it too. I just imagine myself in 30, 40 years time just watching these videos back. I might not be as able-bodied then, so it's just a good experience. And if you've watched it, thank you so much. I've had a big boost again in support on my Patreon, so thank you everybody that has come across. Special mention to MCToon. He has now become a patron of mine, and I feel ecstatic to know that someone as amazing within this community as MCToon wants to support me. So thank you. I will leave a link actually to my source material that I was speaking about when I was at Akenham Church. Also, I moderated a debate on MCToon's channel. It is a 5G debate, and I learned a lot, mainly about 5G. I'm not an expert, far from it. So it was good to just obviously sit there, fly on the wall, and learn direct. But I did have to step in a couple of times, and the 5G lunatic just obviously showed himself up. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Because this content is so different from my flat earth things, should I start a new channel? This series is called A Part of History, and I may be thinking of starting a channel called A Part of History, because I know some of you won't give an iota about what I'm doing, which is fair enough. You're just here for the flat earth, the debunking, etc. So do I split it, or do I just continue to do what I do, put everything on one channel? So I'm asking for advice, guys. Thank you again if you did get to the end of that. You're all amazing, whether you support me financially or not. What I look at this as is like busking. I'm free to watch. You haven't got to pay to watch me, but if you would like to offer a little donation to help me along the way, please do so. But no aggro either way. I'm here to learn and to hopefully entertain. Keep safe, keep it global, and I hope you do come back. Thank you very much.
What you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed.